Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Ecoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me Ashley Segura. Ashley is the Vice President of Global Operations at Top Hat Rank, an award-winning SEO marketing agency headquartered in Sherman Oaks, California. She has a bachelor's degree in journalism from Humboldt State University and over 8 years of experience in digital marketing industry, working with marketers, entrepreneurs, and business owners from around the globe. She is also an in-demand international speaker, teaching digital marketing workshops and speaking at industry conferences like PubCon, Brighton SEO, Search Love, Digital Summit, Retail Global, and the prestigious SMS Sydney. In addition, she has also co-authored the best-selling book, The Better Business Book, Volume 2, and is a contributing writer to industry blogs such as Search Engine Journal and Authority Labs. When not working on running the operations of Top Hat Rank, Ashley enjoys mountain biking in the mountains of Oregon and spending time with friends and family. Ashley, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, Ron. So Ashley, I always like to ask this question. How would your university professors describe you as a student?
As a student, I suppose that would be ambitious, because I was the only one in class who actually volunteered to head over to Japan when the tsunami hit and report on it.
Oh, wow.
Not a single person raised their hand.
Not a single person raised their hand. Oh, wow. What was that like? That must have been interesting.
It was very interesting. It was very powerful to be able to be there on the ground telling the stories of people who were just impacted.
Wow. Yeah, I remember when that happened because I was working at a Mazda dealership and inventory was greatly impacted in regards to us to be able to get that. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the person you were in university and the person you are now?
Business operations.
Operations.
Yep. Marketing has always been there. It's always been top level in how I think. But from a business standpoint, I've opened 3 different agencies. I've worked in-house. I've worked for agencies. And the amount of operational learning has just been extensive.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So based on that, do you think that your experience you gained at SEMrush has helped you in your development as an entrepreneur and overall digital marketer?
Oh, 100%. My experience at SEMrush was absolutely vital to my career. I was able to learn so much and literally travel around the world and get to speak to other marketers, learn what agencies and brands are doing, contribute different strategies to them, and definitely skyrocket things.
Yeah. Do you think that other entrepreneurs, like people who have ambitions to start an agency, should go and work for someone else first before throwing their hat into the ring and launching their own agency from scratch?
100%. It's the difficult route, which is why so many people don't do it. And they just say, okay, I'm going to open my doors today and cross my fingers and wish me luck. But I worked full-time in-house. Then I worked full-time at agencies. I wanted to learn how to really market a brand truly. And then I wanted to learn the agency operations of things. And while I had both those full-time positions, nights and weekends was when I was operating my own company and starting to build my own company.
Wow. That's awesome. Have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur, Ashley?
I'd say so. I think that's pretty safe to say.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it because it's pretty ambitious to put your hand up and go to Japan after a tsunami. And were there indicators as a child that you they say a lot of people have like newspaper routes or lemonade stands or whatever the case may be. Were there things like that going on in your life at a younger age?
Very much so. I had my first job when I was 12 years old, and it was voluntary. Wow. I wanted to work. I wanted to make money, and I wanted to learn how to make money. And that just opened up this whole new space in my mind of what it means to make money on your own and be independent. Of course, obviously, I had an amazing family to support me, but to show up and actually start working at that young of an age while still balancing school really taught me how to do that multitasking while instilling entrepreneurship. Yeah,
that's pretty remarkable. I had my first job when I was 14 at a restaurant. But anyway, so that being said, in the Better Business Book, Volume 2, you wrote a chapter titled How to Know When It's Time to Take the Leap. in which you shared how it took over 5 years to leave the stability and security of your job. What was it that held you back? And do you wish you had made the leap to entrepreneurship sooner than the 5-year period?
Such a great question. So it took 5 years because I wanted to make sure I actually had a good grasp of what it meant to really market a brand and what it meant to really run a business.
Okay.
And could it have been faster? Maybe, yes. But of course, I don't know if you have this, but there's that little voice in your head that has that self-doubt every once in a while. And it starts to pop up and like, you could use a little bit more experience, or you should learn more about this part of business operations before you really pull the trigger. It wasn't until I felt like, okay, I've done what I could at the top of the agency. I moved my way up to the director position, checked that box. I marketed the in-house brand to its max capacity to where I built out an entire marketing department. And both those boxes were checked. And so it just felt secure that, okay, if I take this leap, yes, it's going to be challenging, but I at least have all the tool sets now to be able to deal with those challenges as they come.
Absolutely. You talked about that small voice of doubt or whatever. I personally suffered from the imposter syndrome for many years. And it was an email that went out from Jeff Sauer of Data Driven You that kind of awakened me to that whole idea of even that thing was even real. But was that something you ever struggled with as well?
100%. It's one thing to have the safety and security of a paycheck and knowing that you're working for someone else's business versus when it's on you, it's 100% just on you. If you make a really big mistake with a client, that could ruin your entire agency. It can ruin your reputation.
Absolutely.
Just crumble everything. And so that imposter syndrome definitely comes up. But I started working with business coaches and entrepreneurship coaches, and that really helps kind of fight back those thoughts and pursue.
Wow. So do you think you mentioned coaches and do you think it's important for entrepreneurs to have a mentor? Like you mentioned having a coach.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And that mentor can look like a lot of different things because it depends on what mentorship on.
Sure.
So for example, the first agency that I launched, I thought I had my pricing structure down. I thought things were great. And then I started learning that other single individual agency owners like myself were charging for services. Yeah. And I was so underpriced. And so I reached out to a business coach who specializes just in pricing services. And he helped actually structure my pricing.
Yeah. That is, to be frank with you, I never thought about hiring someone, but that was one of the biggest challenges I had when trying to launch my agency was pricing my services and knowing how, like, especially when it comes to web design, because web design, each and every single website is so unique. And there's so much opportunity for scope creep. And you literally have to guess. You have to guess at what it's going to take to do this and the amount of hours. And sometimes you could be wrong. Like I know one agency in my city, they don't even do e-com anymore. Like they've tried building e-com sites like Magento or WooCommerce or whatever. And he's like, Matt, I would, no matter if I charge 60, 80, 90, 100 grand, I still sometimes lost money. Because now we're just Shopify consultants. We just consult, and it's hard to push back on those things. So yeah, pricing services is like really hard. So you mentioned in the book how you were in the chapter you wrote that you decided to try and find your ideal client and how you raised your prices. So here's my question. I'm gonna try and find it because I did develop some questions and we're kind of ahead of, so that's okay. I just want to, but it's just so, okay, here's the question. What was your process for identifying your dream clients to work with?
A whole lot of trial and error in working with clients that were not aligned with my dream. That was definitely it. After a couple of years, I started to recognize, here's clients that are taking up way more time than what we're billing and what we're actually putting out in terms of support and whatnot. And then here's clients that are, those quote unquote dream clients. And for a regular brand, that could look like what your dream customer is. And so I was able to start identifying that profile by first acknowledging what it looked like in a negative basis.
That's really smart.
Positive, what a positive dream client would be, and then how to attract that client. And that also kind of aligned with pricing of services, because I realized certain services bring certain types of clients with them. And at a certain price point, I will attract that level of clientele as well.
Okay.
That's not to say you always have to charge a ton to have a great client. Definitely not it. I mean, the small mom and pops can be amazing clients as well. But in my personal agency experience, that really helped me hone into what services I wanted to offer and at what price range, because I was able to identify this dream client now.
Did you take a look at the annual recurring revenue of a dream ideal client as one of the factors in regards to who you wanted to work with? Like, for instance, mom and pop shops, like, I had a plumber who wanted to work with me and he just can't afford me. He's a startup plumber. He doesn't have any money. I don't know what he's going to do, but he can't afford a marketer. Like, someone sees it. Like, I don't know what he's going to do. Sometimes I think people should give up equity in their business to have someone like us be able to, and I know that's a trend right now in the industry, to have someone like us contribute to their business. It's just in the same way as a CFO or a CMO, or you know what I mean? But did you use revenue as an indicator of what the ideal client looked like? Was that a factor?
Revenue was definitely a factor, but also resources. So
resources,
is it just a one-stop shop? Are they the only ones in this business who have to run the business, manage the business, do whatever marketing initiatives I strategize for them, or whatever the service was? But if they actually had a marketing department or a comms department or even a sales department, that would even be fantastic if there was just a sales department to work from that would be an indicator that the work and effort that I'm going to produce for this client could actually be executed because there's someone to execute it. Okay.
You also talked about scaling back your services, which is something that people get afraid to do. People think that they have to be everything, all things and everything to everyone. But yet you found your dream client, and then there were certain services that you decided to scale back and others that you decided to offer. So how did you determine whether or not a service was worth offering to clients?
Well, to be honest, it was quite terrifying of a process because I started being that one-stop shop. I was doing everything from web development, landing page optimization, email marketing, Facebook ads, like literally doing it all. But once I realized that some of my happiest clients are from the social media services and the content marketing services that I'm doing. And I'm also happiest doing those services. That was synergy. That was all the synergy that I needed to know that, all right, let's get rid of the web development. Let's get rid of email marketing. Let's focus on specific content marketing services, and social media marketing services. And then that also helped dictate, again, help me zone in on pricing again and restructuring my pricing now that I'm believing in specializing in just these two services, and then attracting clients who just need and know that they just need these two services.
Wow. A lot of people would be afraid because they think, well, if I don't offer everything, they're going to go and get somebody else.
Oh, totally.
And they're going to hire somebody else that's going to steal them from me. How did you solve that problem?
By, again, just making a leap, kind of crossing the fingers, having enough clientele already that were requesting and needing those social media and content marketing services. So I knew that if something terrible happened and I wouldn't be able to get a lot of new clientele, I at least had a strong baseline. I always wait till I have a baseline to make a leap and cross fingers if it works out. And then once that's established, that's exactly where I went down the rest of my career path. To this day, I'm still specialized in just content and social media marketing services.
Wow. So that's amazing, because like you, I didn't do everything for clients, but like when I was at the dealership, I did everything from everything I did PPs, I did Google ads, Facebook ads, SEO, local SEO, analytics, call everything that there was to do, Photoshop, video creation planning, and so on and so forth. It was insane. And I realized that if I was to try and scale that and do that for other agencies, it would be impossible. And so do you think it's important to, like, for as marketers, like, I don't know who made it popular, but someone did, being a T-shaped marketer, where you go deep on one facet channel of digital marketing. You still have a knowledge, a limited, a basic knowledge or whatever of other aspects of the channels, but then going deep, like you've gone deep on social media and content. Do you think, if you could go back in time, would you start it out that way right in the beginning? And would you recommend other, like, let's say aspiring digital marketer, somebody else who's in journalism school and wants to become a digital, is that the advice you would give?
I actually don't think I would give that advice. And it's a little bit argumentative, but because I started doing everything there is to know in digital marketing, and I was even doing print. Like, this was before web was everything. So I was even doing print marketing and PR. Because I did that, it allowed me to have this well-rounded base to understand
there you go.
Content needs to support SEO.
Yeah.
And yes, I do content, and my original content stems from writing blog posts and the creative writing. Back when, we would write 4 to 5 blog posts a day and just publish as much content as possible. As we could, certainly. But also having an understanding of how to build a website. I know and am so incredibly comfortable working in the back end of WordPress. And so having, like you said in the beginning, like a rough basics of all the fundamental aspects of digital marketing, not only will prepare you to really be an expert, but it also shines light in what you like best. You may think you like social and then dive into social. There you go. Oh no, that's changing way too much for me.
No, I agree with you. Like, getting a more well-rounded, getting experience in everything first and doing multiple positions and learning multiple things, and then figuring out what you want to hone in. I think, that's a good strategy to take. Only thing I wish I learned, I learned front-end marketing first, and then I learned the analytics side of things because I had to have necessity to prove that what I was doing was working. But in some ways, I wish I maybe learned a little bit more about web analytics and KPIs and so on and so forth further earlier in my career than later. But anyway, so how did you solve the problem, like, of people not being? Did you work with referral partners, or did you find referral partners in regards to fulfill some of those other services in your agency that you had stopped offering, like email marketing, or you mentioned you stopped doing web design and so on and so forth?
Yes, which I totally wish I would have done a little bit sooner, because it created such fruitful relationships with people in the industry who already did establish themselves as, hey, I am a web developer, or I am a graphic designer. This is what I do. This is what I thrive on. And was able to either create relationships and on a white label basis, or literally in some cases to where, this needs to be completely hands off. You need to be communicating and getting support directly from this other business or this other person. So then passing over and creating referral relationships like that. That meant all of those other referrals were also coming back to me, because now I have relationships. These people trust me. They see the type of clients I'm sending them. They're then going to send me clients as well, because they understand that not only do I say I specialize in this, but they're understanding through the relationship building that I do actually specialize in this. Yeah.
You're not going to poach their business either. What did you find was the best way to find these potential referral partners?
A lot of the relationships I found were from conferences. I started speaking at conferences in my first year of my own agency. And that's how I actually generated my first round of clientele. And that's how I generated referral partners. That's how I discovered which brands I wanted to work for, not work for, things like that. So in meetups, conferences are huge for building relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, how did you get started so quickly speaking at conferences? Like, a lot of people want to speak at conferences, but they don't know how. What was your secret?
Just applying. And yes, you're going to get rejection. It definitely helps having a speaker website that gets the social support of what you do, why you're an expert there, get some testimonials there, get some great photos.
Okay. Some branding.
First was, hire a photographer. I built my site because I knew how to do it, but if you need to hire someone to build your speaker site, get as much expertise and authority on there as you can, not for Google, but for the conference people that are looking for speakers. They're going to go and check out your site and see if you really know your stuff. They're going to want testimonials on there. They're going to want to see any videos of you. One little secret that anyone can totally pull this off: find somewhere in your hometown that has a stage. This could be a civic center. Find somewhere that has a stage, get a tripod, press the record button on your phone, and just start talking. No one knows if that's a presentation in front of 5,000 people, 5 people, or no people, but it's showing that you can actually speak and present. And the conference hosts, managers are going to see this and be like, oh, I love their stage performance. I love how they're presenting this information. I'm going to confidently reach out to them and tell them to pitch.
That's bloody brilliant. That is such a good idea. So I was going to ask you, what made you finally decide to start your own marketing agency, Madhouse Matters?
Well, I guess the entrepreneurship drive was definitely always in the back of my mind. And that's where I knew I always wanted to be, because I come from a background of wanting personal freedom. Starting a job at 12 years old to make money, to have freedom to buy a vehicle when I finally get a license and be able to do things on your own. And so being a business owner comes with a tremendous amount of freedom. What people very rarely talk about is all the headaches and the lack of freedom that
it Michael Gerber talks about that in his book, The E-Myth Revisited, how this baker who owned a bakery had more freedom when they were a baker working for somebody else than when they were. I hear you, because I went through that.
It did take time. I eventually found that happy medium point. But, when you start a new business, especially when you launch an agency, you are hustling and you have to keep hustling. Unless you want to make bare bones and you're good with that, then you can do that 4-hour work week and all power to you. But in the beginning, it's a lot of work. It's all day, it's nights, it's evenings, it's weekends. You're going for it.
Yeah. What do you think are some key things that should be in place before someone decides to quit their job and make the leap into entrepreneurship?
Having a foundation already established. And usually that looks like, since we're talking about agency, I'll use that as an example. Having 1 or 2 clients already.
Okay.
That's going to give you some kind of security. If you are able to get those clients, you're going to be able to get more clients. That also gives you an established testimonial base, experience. You understand how to do basic operations like invoicing, reporting, things like that.
Things they don't teach you. It's one thing to be good at Google Ads or SEO. It's another thing to be able to run the operations side of things. Do you think people should get more business? Like, do you think no one teaches you this? Like, or do you know where, like, if someone wanted to learn business school, like stuff like the operations side of things that you learned hands-on as a result of working for other people, is that the only way to learn these things? Or is there other ways of, like, is there an agency operations manual out there that someone's charging? I don't know, because I haven't.
I'm sure with how many agencies are out there, someone's had to have published some kind of ebook of how to open your agency's front doors.
Anybody listening to this, come on the show and tell us.
That first-hand experience of working at agencies. Once you've done in-house and you understand the basics of being full, well-rounded as a marketer, and then you go into the agency mindset, even though there may be an accounting department that's doing things like the invoicing and making sure that your corporation's up to date and all the taxes and all that stuff, you're still going to have a little bit of an understanding of that, and then you'll dive into it with programs like Gusto or CorpNet. There's a lot of programs that do this stuff for you these days.
So what were some of the biggest challenges you faced then when first starting your agency in the first stages, early stages?
I'd say establishing what I really wanted to offer when I finally made that goal to cut back on services, to identify a correct pricing structure, and then figure out how to keep new clients coming. That was definitely where the focus went after the basics were, after the foundation was there. And for me, the best way to do that was to keep speaking, to get on stages. I would speak at California Chiropractic Association conference. I'd go to the California insurance conferences, finding niches in specific industries, becoming an expert in those, letting them know that not only are you an expert in XYZ marketing field, but you also know how to do marketing for insurance agents, for chiropractors, for fill in the blank.
Wow. So public speaking, I mean, more people fear public speaking than death, which is absolutely amazing. Really? More people fear public speaking than death. But I think if you're an entrepreneur, you need to learn how to public speak. Most definitely. Dale Carnegie courses, you can take lots of stuff. So you would say, though, that public speaking was definitely a way that brought in business for you. And so is that what you would recommend to others to do if they're like?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my number one marketing. I didn't even do marketing for the agency until my third year because all my clients were coming from speaking. And then by year 3, I wanted to really amplify and turn up the volume on everything. And so then that's when I started ads. But before you can even speak, you need a brand identity, your own personal identity.
Yeah.
And building that up through speaking is definitely a way to do that.
And so your presentation that you developed, was it based on, how did you go about the development of that? Was it based on, again, what you were interested in, content marketing and social media in regards to strategies and so on and so forth?
Yeah, actually, my first speaking engagement was
tell me about that.
To me. So I had just graduated college and my insurance agent was like, hey, you're young. Can you fix my website and help me with my online marketing? You probably know about these things. And I had no idea. I was a journalism PR student and I did social media for the college, but everything else was totally out of the wheelhouse. So I, entrepreneur mindset was like, yes, I can do all these things. I'll figure it out. So figured it out, did marketing for his company while I was working in-house at another brand. And he was my first client. And so after a few months of doing marketing for him and building him a new website, regularly creating blog posts and social media content for him, he's like, there's a big insurance conference coming up. And I've been telling people about what you've done. Can you come and speak? We have an open speaking slot and we don't have anything marketing. And so again, entrepreneur mindset, I said, yes, sure. I've never done a presentation like that before, but build it. And so that one was very specific to insurance marketing, but I just showed what I was doing for him and how I did it.
And how you did it. Wow, that's so smart. Hey, so you started off in journalism school and then now you've pivoted entirely to marketing. Was that did that guy lead you down the path?
100%.
Career? That is amazing. That is so amazing.
I was going to be a National Geographic journalist. That was the goal. That was the plan. Still may circle back to that one day. But when I pivoted, I graduated and I finished my schooling in December. And literally in January, he reached out to me. And so I started right away down this marketing path. And I found that it was a way to still tell stories.
Yeah.
From a brand perspective instead of just a human demographic perspective. Completely different storytelling, but it was also a way to craft stories and get paid to do it. Whereas print was going through this really weird transition. Everything was going to school anyway. So I was like, all right, let's adapt. Let's try this out. And I loved it. That's
awesome. And your education still came in handy because I mean, how could it not? You're developing stories for brands, and learning how to do that. That's amazing. Many experts say that the ability to pivot is one of the most important skills an entrepreneur can have. Can you share a time when you had to pivot and how you did it?
Definitely. So pivoting from in-house to agency life was a huge pivot Oh, it was so different.
Wow.
In-house, I was the everything. I did all of the marketing hats. I wore all of them. And then I realized if I really want to take my side business somewhere, I need specific agency experience, like we chatted about. And so I then went into an agency environment and decided I'm just going to specialize in social in this agency environment, because that's what I was most recently doing for clients is social. And that's when Facebook started doing advertising too. And so I pivoted, I paused on everything content and just focused on social. For about 2 years, I worked in one agency just doing social for them. And that's where I was able to, at that point, I was no longer talking about content marketing when I was presenting. I was just talking about paid social. And it was at a time where 2 years into Facebook paid, it was huge. Everyone was talking about it.
Oh, so that was amazing.
Become an expert on this while I could still generate content in the background. But I went, instead of being content and social, I was just social for a while.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. Pivoting is so important. Hey, what are some tips for finding balance between personal and professional life as an entrepreneur that you've gleaned over the years that you could share?
It's a fantastic question. It's very different for everyone because everyone's personal lives are so different. But when I was juggling working full time and working nights and weekends, I eventually learned how to prioritize what really needed to be done that day and what didn't need to be done that day, what could wait. And so then that helped me to actually schedule out my tasks over certain days instead of working every single day, these long 12, 14-hour days, really honing it down and just prioritizing this absolutely needs to get done and needs to get sent out today. These other items wait until 2 or 3 more days. And so that just allowed me to really clear a calendar, and mentally I would be able to say, okay, I don't have to work every night this week in order to make all of this work.
Yeah. Did you find time blocking was helpful? Like setting a set schedule?
Yep. Time blocking is still what I do to this day.
Yeah.
I dilute it to the point of where I will literally put a block on my calendar and say, for this hour, I am focusing on this thing. And then the next hour, I am focusing on this thing. So I have project management system that I use. I have a notepad. I have a to-do list. I have a virtual to-do list as well. I've got all the project management systems in place, but that's awesome. Really powerful seeing it in your calendar and seeing, okay, this hour is up. Time to move on to the next thing before you rabbit hole down this.
Yeah, exactly. And spend too much time. I do that with email. Like once there's a certain amount of time scheduled for email, and if it doesn't get done, then I prioritize the email even. I use activeinboxhq.com. I'm not sure if you've heard of that. Big shout out to them. If anybody uses Gmail, it turns your inbox into a project management system. Not a full blown one, but at least for individuals. Your last agency that you had, you closed it up, and you've chosen to go and work for Top Hat Rank, which is owned by Arson.
Yes, correct.
What was your? Would you care to share the story about how that around that?
100%. Yeah.
How that ended up being?
Of course. So at Madhouse Matters, I had that agency for 8 years. It started as Simplicity to Marketing, a completely different agency, then rebranded it over into Madhouse Matters. Towards the end of the agency, I was working with SEMrush, and that just completely consumes my time and my energy and my focus. After SEMrush, I decided, okay, I'm going to go back into agency life a little bit, but I also don't want it at the level that I had before. I had done agency ownership for 8 years and was definitely burnt out on it. I tried as many systems I put in place, I was just simply burnt out on agency life. And so when Arson and I were good friends, we both speak in the industry. Him and I together, and he approached me about doing operations. Now, business operations, that I never got burnt out on. I love operating businesses. I love figuring out how to optimize a standard operating procedure or how to client success, all of that. That is totally my wheelhouse. I love all of that. And so there was just great synergy there to take off the agency owner hat and put on, and this also goes back to just focusing on the specific services that I liked. This was a chance for me to focus in on one specific thing in agency life. And at that moment, operations was where my heart was at. And so that's where I'm at today, still doing operations for Top Hat Rank and absolutely loving it.
That is awesome. And, what's one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
To not be afraid to pull the plug and to take the leap. Yeah. And there's so much opportunity out there. Really hone in on what it is that you want to offer. Like at Top Hat Rank, we narrowed everything down to just SEO services, technical SEO services.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Narrow down your expertise and what you're passionate about, then by all means, take that leap and go for it.
Right on, right on. Hey, Ashley, how can our listeners connect with you online if they choose to do so?
Certainly, you can find me on LinkedIn or you can find me on Twitter at Ashley Madpatter.
Right on. Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
Right on, right on. You have a great day.